Welcome to another edition of AV Rant. I'm Tom Antry, Associate Editor of Audioholics. I'm here with
Rob H. This is AV Rant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered. A little bit slight delay in the start of our recording session, but audio only listeners won't notice that. And I've got one of those weeks behind me where it was just like, what happened? Huh? Cobwebs, can't quite clear them. So all good
I have no idea
things
what anything
start
you just
this
said
week.
meant. What is that? I don't know what that means. Wait, you
It
say
means I didn't.
tired?
Yeah, I was busy and tired and not feeling great, and cobwebs in my head that haven't quite cleared yet. So that's where we are today.
Yeah. All right.
For
This
all
is the
those
AV
interested.
podcast. So we are late, and we're late because of something we'll talk about in a second. New technology. AV Rant is the podcast where we answer your home theater and AV questions. Any questions you want answered, we are there to answer them. You can contact us in order to get your question answered by emailing us at tom@avrant.com, rob@avrant.com, or question@avrant.com. Come to the website, which of course is www.avrant.com. You can leave a comment there. It does work again. I'm getting constant people, fake people from the .ru and .br.
Lovely.
What is BR? What is that?
I don't know.
Boca Raton or
Brussels?
something? No, Brussels. Probably. Anyways, Belgium. No, it's probably not Belgium.
Belarus?
Anyways, you can leave a comment there. You can go to facebook.com/AVRantPodcast or Twitter at First Reflect for Rob, at AVRant_Tom for me, and at Austin Pond for Austin, our producer, also has his own podcast called We Watch Movies. It's a podcast dedicated solely on people who try to maximize how quickly and efficiently they can vacuum their house.
Okay.
They make little spreadsheets and stuff and share them with each other and get comments and suggestions from
No
the hosts.
Roombas allowed.
Yes, that's right. They like to do it so that I think the thing is sort of like you go up one way, you go back down the other one, so it gets that sort of like baseball field look.
Crisscross pattern.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Some people even do it special so it looks like it was weaved like the top of a pie. I don't know why they call it We Watch Movies. That's what they talk about, but that's what they talk about. It's weird. Anyways, we have a couple of listeners of the week this week. We have two listeners who gave us donations. They went to www.avrant.com and clicked on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link and left us a PayPal donation, which always is helpful, helps support the podcast. Ariel is one, and Jonathan, who in his notes called it a consulting fee, which is not inaccurate considering how much advice he's gotten from us and how much money we probably saved him.
Thank you, gentlemen. Much appreciated.
Much appreciated. And Ken is the reason that we are late today because he bought me a new device. He bought me this thing, which if you're watching the video, you're seeing it is a new outboard preamp. It's called the PreSonus, right? PreSonus.
Yeah, microphone preamp is.
Yeah,
what
it's called the Audio Box 44 VSL, and it was not behaving. And it shut off my video and did a bunch of other stuff. And
it didn't get along with your old computer that breaks when you open a web page. Shocking.
Shocking, right? Okay. So on that front, well, first of all, Ken, this is extremely generous, Ken,
Yes.
and you didn't have to do this. You really didn't. But he said he heard me complaining about my preamp that I've got, the M Audio Fast Track Pro, which has served me reliably for years, is starting to get a little finicky and weird, and like the pots on them and stuff like that are getting noisy and sometimes cutting out. Robbo, you've probably heard it on the podcast once or twice before. Robbo said, "You've got quiet all of a sudden, Tom," and I have to kind of fiddle with it. And sometimes I can only hear through one headphone and not the other, and it'll change as the podcast goes on. Stuff like that makes me think that it doesn't have very much life in it. Well, this will be the upgrade, the new one, and we will be using this in the future once we get it working. But it's not playing nice with my god-awful 2009 mid-2009 MacBook, one of the white ones, so shockingly, but we'll be talking about that in a second. We also want to thank Ilongo,
as far as I know. Ilongo,
who took the time to send us a very kind and heartfelt letter to Rob regarding both of his family health issues and how we've handled such matters on the podcast, which was great.
Yeah, I wanted to, especially just because it was a very, well thought out and reasoned letter that he sent, and I don't want to say too much because I mean it was basically a private letter, but he is a healthcare professional. Let's just make it that vague. So
All
he
right.
has quite a lot of experience with folks going through, having to look after their parents as they're getting older and going through health issues and that. So I'd want to take the opportunity just to do a really little update, just so people aren't wondering what's going on. Folks have more or less settled into the sort of new routine now. They're able to get in and out of the house now that we've installed a lift that goes onto the balcony, so they're not dealing with the stairs anymore that I was saying, which still are the bane of existence. But once you have a lift that can take you up and down the balcony instead of using the stairs,
So
life
they
gets
come
much
in
easier.
window or like a sliding glass door in the balcony?
No, it goes onto the balcony and then they can just go in the balcony door entrance.
Oh, okay.
So
It's like a front door sort of thing.
yeah. There's like a kitchen door that goes out onto the balcony. So that's how they're getting in and out of the house, going to appointments. So as long as they're able to do that now, that has eased a lot of headaches and tension instead of having to call a non-emergency ambulance and wondering if they might come or not.
Oh, there you go.
Since, non-emergency is definitely at the bottom of the priority list. So anyway.
They're like, we've got coffee.
That's right.
Let's just wait till we need more coffee. And then the next person that does the coffee thing can go pick up Rob's parents or whatever it is.
Yeah. So things are managing and we're finding a new routine. So thanks for everyone who's been concerned.
Thank you, Longo. And Scott, his electronic. Okay, so he had the system that we kind of helped him out with a little bit, and I think we did subs for him, right? We talk about subs for him.
We did, right? and gave him a forwarding to Soundproofing Company about the room construction, and
right.
Did some other planning about size of projector screen and stuff like that. So we chipped in.
Yeah. Anyways, SVS spotlighted his theater after he had bought some SVS subs. I wonder who told him to do that. And then Electronic House also picked up that SVS Spotlight theater piece, and we are prominently mentioned.
Yeah,
which is awesome.
It says podcast right in the title of the piece, so people will be looking for which podcast are they referring to.
DIYer uses podcast to plan Dolby Atmos home theater.
There you go.
That's us, which is awesome. In fact, I not only got an email from him, but I got an email from Nicholas, who I think he used to do marketing and got us the interviews over at SVS. He contacted me and said, "Hey, you got mentioned." And I was like right after Scott had emailed us. And in fact, Rob, he needs your email address. I have to remind me to do that. Anyways, and they've got some new products coming out and they want to have another interview on the podcast. So let's do that as well. Yes. So that's going to be something happen. And some dude who has designed some Atmos like in ceiling speakers asked to be interviewed for the podcast. So we're going to set that up. I am way behind. Austin, remind me to send these things to you so you can this is your job. I'm not supposed to do this. This is your job. Anyway, so thank you, Scott. Thank you, Longo. Ken, really thank you for this. Very, very generous. And Ariel and Jonathan for the donations. Thank you all.
Yes, thank you, gentlemen. Very much appreciated.
Ken might be getting more than one mention on this podcast. On top of that, I do have my aging, just terrible laptop computer. Anyway, so you guys might remember a couple of weeks back, I talked about my wife losing her job and she was on the job market. Well, a couple of weeks ago, she got a job offer, which she was sort of kind of excited about, but not really. And today, we had countered last week, and today she had a telephone interview, a conference with them about it. And she has been interviewing. She interviewed like 3 or 4 times last week. She's had she had 2 interviews today, interview tomorrow. So she's got a lot of stuff in it. So it's looking like financially we're going to be okay. And the minute that woman takes a job offer, I am getting a new computer. That is a thing that is happening.
Ask for a signing bonus and use it for a computer.
I am getting a new computer. I have to have
her signing bonus.
Something. Anyways, so so that's in the works too. So I want to get onto this stuff because we're starting late. We did have some news. I actually heard an NPR they were talking about this hearing test thing. It's called the Me hearing test. It's an app for your iPhone, but in the article there is a link to a Android hearing test app that you can get to. I started it. It requires you to wear, if you're not using like stock headphones, which why would you do a hearing test with earbuds? Why? It requires you to like go through and listen to in their really low test tones, like really
low volume,
and then you have to like press the button whenever you can hear it doing that whoa, 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 whoa thing, right? And I think it's basically setting the it's setting the which is the frequency response at the curve in order to so that it's got an idea of what your headphones can actually do.
Mm-hmm.
They actually say to give it to somebody between 18 and 24 to listen for you because they have better hearing than you do.
Yeah.
But I don't have anybody between 18 and 24, and I have good hearing. I know that because I just had it tested a couple of years ago. So I started doing it, but I have a house full of children and everybody was gone. I was like, yes, I'll get it done. And then my wife came in, started slamming doors and stuff, and I started cursing. And she's like, "How was I supposed to know?" I'm like, "I don't care. It's your fault." It was marriage. It's wonderful. Did you do the test? Did you do the hearing test?
I did, yeah. So in there, they've profiled only 2 headphones like beforehand, so they already know what the response curve of those are, and that's the Apple Ear Pods, which are the horrible little white things that come with it, and then 1 pair of Sennheisers. I think it was the something 280s. It's like DJ headphone 280s. I think those are the only 2 that they profile. So out of the 2, the only ones I had on hand were the ear pods. I tried using other headphones too, but it did vary the volume depending on what headphones I plugged in because different efficiencies. Right. So I actually went through the full test because you actually have to register in that to do the full hearing test. So there's the little sort of prep test at the beginning, which said I was between 30 and 35, which is like, yes, I am. So, hey, maybe it's pretty accurate. But then I went through the full test using the ear pods because that's the only ones I had that were fully profiled. And then it said I was 18 with 99% hearing. I was like, all right, that's okay. But it only tests from 250 hertz to 8 kilohertz.
Well, that's useless.
So it doesn't test the very low bass, and it doesn't test
certainly can't test.
Well,
it's using those ear pods. It can't test the low bass because nothing's going to come out,
or the high treble because they cut off after about 12 kilohertz. There's like nothing coming out of those. So, so actually, at the end of that, there's a chance to write to them. So I wrote some feedback to them, and I described those things. I was like, hey, I realized obviously you're like limiting it because of the hardware as well. Sure. The headphones, but I was like, hey, if you can include higher frequencies, lower frequencies and that. So they actually responded back really quick and they're like, yep, we're aware of those things. They're mostly concerned with speech intelligibility because that's the thing most hearing tests are concerned with. And that's what they plot out. And that's fine to be between 250 and 8 kilohertz for speech intelligibility. But I suggested they profile the Sony MDR 20. What are they? 2506? Is that the great number? Whatever that one that's found in every studio in the world. I was like, profile those because everybody has them. And then there is a actual app inside of the app for playing music where you can memeify it. That's the term they use, which is basically just applying an EQ to make the voices stand out more in the mix. However, it also makes like the snare drum stand out more in the mix because that's
right. Headache inducing.
So, well, there's a range. You don't have to crank it all the way up, but it is an EQ. That's clearly what it's doing.
Yeah, that was the same problem I ran into when I was at the when I got my hearing test. I'm like, I wanted to get my hearing tested so I could know what I had, and they're like, we usually stop right around 8 kilohertz or 10 kilohertz or whatever it was. I was like, no, I want to know. He goes, well, I don't even know how accurate it's going to be up there. I'm like, I don't care, just do it. So that's exactly the problem that you run into. All right, it's something you can try out if you want to try out to see if you're 18.
Absolutely.
Rob found that the format war is finally over, that Sony will stop making Betamax tapes in March of 2016. Now, honestly, this is actually a deal because studios use Betamax still.
Yeah, a lot of television is still... Well, until recently, still recorded on Betamax tapes.
That's right, because just like a lot of other things, it was better than VHS. It was better. It just you couldn't get 6 hours of tape on one, and therefore it didn't win. SpectraCal can now send out HDR10 test patterns from their CalMan calibration software. If you're into calibrating, this is very important to you. Or if you're CalMan makes their software is very flexible, very powerful. It's quite easy to use. Yeah, generally speaking,
easily the standard now. There's really no competition anymore.
It is. And Dolby Vision was already supported. It has been supported for a while. So
the trick of it is because there are actually no computers with HDMI 2.0A ports, Dolby Vision does not require 2.0A. Dolby Vision can be sent out of a regular 2.0 port. It's just the bandwidth that it cares about. It doesn't care about the little A thing, which is the metadata for HDR10. So since no computers have that HDR10 yet, and not to worry if you have an HDMI 2.0 port on your computer, it's a software upgrade to add that little A onto the end of it, but it's not there yet. So right now, if you want to do this, Spectracal has worked hand in hand with a couple of companies called Quantum Data in the States and Astro Design in Japan. Each of them has a signal generator with an HDMI 2.0 A port on it now. So that's the only way to actually get the signal right this minute. But basically, as soon as computers can do it, CalMan will allow you to send it out of your computer's HDMI port. So they're just waiting for that. But it's all here now.
Yeah.
Go and calibrate.
Gary sent us a link to Sony. It plans on joining Fox as the earliest studios to announce the Ultra HD Blu-ray releases.
Yeah.
And they're going to release Amazing Spider-Man 2, Salt, Hancock, Chappie, Pineapple Express. That needs this. And the Smurfs 2.
Yes.
The Smurfs 2.
They were like, we are bringing only our A-list titles for these first Ultra HD releases.
My brother, my autistic brother, whenever he can get a box set of something, he buys the box set of it. Like he earns money like allowance still for doing chores around the house. I mean, he's 30 years old. I guess he's 30 years old. But he's pretty autistic. He just got the box set of Amazing Spider-Man 1 and Amazing Spider-Man 2. So he tried to give me those movies. I'm like, no.
You don't
but I looked at him. I was like, "Well, Amazing Spider-Man 2, you have it in Blu-ray, so I'll take that one just because it's in Blu-ray. But I'm never gonna watch it." I literally said that to my parents. I'm like, "I'll take it, but I'm not watching it. You can't make me." Such a bad movie. But they do have HDR. It does. If you click on the link, it does have it right there on the box.
Yeah, that's what I noticed about the Fox mock-ups was that they didn't have HDR listed anywhere on it, even though Fox has said everything they make from now on they will make in HDR. They're like gung-ho about it. So I found it surprising that they didn't put HDR logo on the front of their
we'll see what they
HD,
do.
but I'm sure they will. It was just mock-ups right now. So, but the cases are going to be black instead of blue. They're the same size as Blu-ray cases, but they're going to be black now with bright, shiny silver printing. That's so that you can tell that it's an Ultra HD Blu-ray instead of just a regular Blu-ray.
They should call it platinum printing. And Gabe sent us a link to an article about the University of Southern California. They are archiving over 10,000 wax cylinder audio recordings, and those will be available to stream or download for absolutely free. Now, of course, these are really old, and they sound like they are really old. But if you're into vinyl, you will love this. It has all the static you could ever want. All of it in one place.
And it's mono, so you know it's better.
Mono. The bomb.
No, I mean, this is awesome for archival purposes to make sure that these things are not lost forever, because eventually these cylinders are going to degrade, and every time you play them, they actually physically change a little bit because it's a physical stylus tracing along wax, which, as you might guess, is not going to stay put forever.
I wonder if when they play these things back, they play it back someplace cold, so it doesn't. Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
In any case, they're digitizing them all now, so that's cool.
And it's something like I don't even think they're using that high of a codec. There's like MP3 128 or something like that. It's like they're like, well, who cares? It's got the dynamic range of wax.
We're not really worrying about losing a little bit of bass and treble because they didn't exist in the first place.
All right, Tim, we got some comments here. Tim wants everybody to check out an episode of The Nature of Things. It's a CBC Canada production called Sonic Magic, The Wonder and Science of Sound. It largely deals with semantics, which is the visual representation of waves.
Cymatics.
Cymatics, what did I say? Yeah. Semantics.
Semantics, which is not SYM, CYM. Cymatics. Yeah, so looking at it in various ways of both, like, the little classic test where you put some like salt on top of a platform and then shake that platform at varying frequencies and you see the patterns that it generates, and then doing this standing wave patterns in water, but then also standing waves where you can levitate very light objects in the actual standing wave pattern in the air, so it's like actually levitating things, and then that somewhat well-known guy who's blind but actually uses little clicks to do like human sonar.
Yeah, that guy's cool. I know him. He teaches other people to do it too.
That's right. And he rides a bicycle and he's completely blind. So that's
he's like Daredevil, dude.
I know.
He clicks.
That's right. So
it makes him less of a ninja and more of a like a dolphin.
All things to do with sound, but then forming a visual component to it as well. So
right.
That's the show.
Lastly, we have John on Twitter linked us up to Ascend Acoustics. They are releasing a what are they calling it? The
Sierra
Sierra
Sat.
Sat.
Yeah, Sierra Satellite.
And they'll have the RAL ribbon tweeter that Rob's so enamored with.
I am.
So,
Yes,
that.
it's the same one that's in the Sierra 2, although they might rejigger the faceplate so that the faceplate is a little bit smaller. And then instead of a 6-inch woofer, it's going to be a 4.5-inch woofer, a single woofer, still in a bamboo cabinet, but of course a smaller bamboo cabinet, being that it's going to be a satellite speaker. And so far, it's not like ready yet. This is like totally behind the scenes on the forum, but once Dave says that a project is underway, then it's underway. I trust him that much. He's never reneged on a project once he's officially said it's underway. He hasn't completely decided whether it's going to be ported or sealed yet. People are requesting that it be sealed so that it's easier to, put in compromised locations, being a satellite speaker. He says it's really going to depend on what C's can do as far as constructing this 4.5-inch woofer. If they can make it efficient enough to work in a sealed design, he'll go for it, but otherwise it'll be ported because he wants it to be able to play
make
out
a
to
front
80
port.
hertz.
It'd be fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but he says no matter what, it will definitely be wall mountable. So that's the
There
goal.
you go. Which means it has to be front port. All right, let's get to some questions here. Monty. Monty often has thunderstorms where he lives and realized that he needs to replace the inexpensive surge protectors, his plasma TV, that protects his plasma TV, the preamps, etc. They're all plugged into. He saw a Monster Cable reference power center HTS 2500 in a local pawn shop for $50. Is it worth the $50, or would it be better to put the money towards something else?
Something else.
All right. So you just have to understand something about Rob. Rob is fairly unbiased, unless the words monster.
That's right.
In which case, he will. If someone gave it to you for free, Monty, Rob would say, "Burn it, burn it, and sacrifice it to the audio gods for good karma."
Yeah, I'm no fan of Monster as a company, so I just out of hand say don't buy their products.
Whatever. Okay, so, Monty.
No. Just so people know where I'm coming from.
He just doesn't like Monster, and that's fine. I don't like Monster either. They have taken their hits lately, and the fact that they got completely hosed by Dr. Dre, I think, is just good karma coming back to haunt them, or bad karma coming back from all the terrible things that they've done. That's just them losing probably billions of dollars. Not probably, them losing billions of dollars because Monster's son's, whatever his name, Noli's son is some sort of walking idiot, and allowed them to basically take everything. That's just karma. Okay. That said, honestly, Monty, you want to look on the back of this thing and look for the UL sticker.
Mm-hmm.
If it's UL certified, it means that it has been tested to do the thing that it's supposed to do, which is stop surges from coming through. Mm-hmm. Now, Austin, our producer, would like to note, he would like to chime in here, saying that Monster's descriptions of this product is outrageous. And the quote here from Monster is, other surge protectors can result in as much as 20 to 30 dB of signal loss, which ultimately affects the output performance of coax connections. Monster's ultra-low loss RF circuitry provides virtually no signal loss to maintain peak performance. Best of all, an audible surge alarm and visual surge indicator warn you of harmful surges unless you know that you're getting the most advanced protection available.
Yeah, 20 to 30 dB of signal loss. I have never seen that much in a surge. I mean, they're talking about the coax connection. You actually take a coax cable, like your cable TV wall outlet, and plug that into the surge protector to avoid a surge coming in that way. 2 to 3 dB, very common. That's like across the board. But 20 to 30, that's insane. I've never seen that.
They do say as much as, which I guess it's theoretically. I'm sure there's some product out there that's done that. Honestly, I've never successfully been able to plug in the coax into a surge protector because I've always lost channels. It just cuts off that much signal, and I lose channels. That has been a problem. In fact, if you find that some of your channels coming in and out, look to see how many splitters you have in your signal chain and see if you can get rid of some of them, because every single one of them is cutting a couple of dB of bandwidth off of those bad boys. That said, Monty, if it has a UL certification, it's safe to buy, and $50, go ahead and buy it. Just put some electrical tape over the thing that says Monster, and then Rob will come over there and have a hissy fit.
But aside from that, this is not a battery unit. So when he's saying that he sometimes has thunderstorms and the power cuts out, what you really want is battery backup,
That is
because
true.
that gives you enough time to, at the very least, just turn everything off safely, which is basically all you're aiming for. Maybe allow your DVR to keep running for a little while until, if it's only like a 5 or 10 minute power outage, then the battery can keep your DVR running and your recording won't stop. So that's very nice. I just had that happen the other night. So had a 20-minute power outage and my DVR kept running because I have a APC J15 hooked up to that. So I would suggest APC, one of their back UPS units, like the 650 or the 750 that has a battery in it. They go for like $55 to $70. So they're well within this, type of price range. And there you go. That's what I would get.
Yeah. Money was really hoping for 4K HDR and Ultra HD Blu-ray to all be ironed out this year in time for Christmas. Technically, you could get those things if you've got like 30 grand, 50 grand, something. But since that doesn't seem to be happening, he's been cruising Craigslist looking for a cheap 1080p projector to tide him over. With this 10 to 12 foot viewing distance, his current 42-inch plasma isn't cutting it. Is he wasting his money looking at a used projector? He saw one person selling an Epson 3020 with a manual pull down 92-inch screen and a ceiling mount for the projector, all for $650. What should he be looking out for with a used projector? Okay, there's a lot of things to look out for. First of all, you want to make sure it works, and you don't want to just project it onto a screen, onto a wall, and just make sure light comes out of it. That's not going to be good enough. What you're going to want to do, if you can, is see it in action, meaning darken the room and put up a full white screen and the full black screen, if you can. Okay, because if you've got if there's some dust that has gotten inside the projector, then on that full black screen you'll see little little speckles or little green dots and stuff, and they are irritating as heck. I've got a projector that's got one little speck of dust inside of it. It's my fault, happened because of me, but it'll drive you nuts. So you'll see that in the dark, number one. Number two, you see putting up the entire white screen, it'll show you some, if there's any other issues. Between the two of them, you should be able to see anything that you need to see. Second, you want to look up how much the bulbs cost. Because just assume that the first thing you're going to have to do within 10 hours of owning this thing is buy another bulb for it, because it's going to explode on you. There's no one that's selling, I just got a brand new bulb in it. You are a liar. Whoever says that is a liar. There's like one person that's telling the truth, but everybody else is a liar, because if you had a brand new bulb, you would take it out and eBay it separately. You absolutely would. And you would tell them it was it's brand new in the box, and I never took it out. Oh, yeah, I put 1,000 hours on it, but other than that, I never took it out. That's what they would say.
Yeah, it's awfully tricky, because I don't want to say never buy a used projector, because it's not like you can. In fact, I did buy a used projector once, and it was fine. So it's not like it can't be done.
This is coming from Rob, though. He sells stuff to people, then it breaks. So
I'm never gonna live that down. Still haven't heard the end of that from Kyle. Hope he'll get back to me. But yeah, if it's not, if it's Craigslist, then it's probably local, and you probably can have a look at it before you buy it. Otherwise, if it's one you can't see before you buy, I'd be very wary of that as far as a used projector goes, just because there definitely are things that could be wrong with it, and it's rare for someone on eBay who's selling it privately used that they're going to accept a return. So
no, you're going to have to. This is not an eBay thing. You have to see it in person. You have to go to the person's house, or they have to bring it to your house, or something. You have to set it up. You have to put some light through it, and if you can't do those things, then that's it.
So it's like most things, it's a bit of buyer beware, but this is definitely a see it before you buy it.
Yeah, considering all the refurb units that are out there, I would just I would probably just go to some place that sells refurb projectors and get one that way. You're just going to be safer overall. But if you do have somebody that's doing something like this and it's nearby, there's no harm checking it out. But make sure you just calculate in, okay, it's $650 for all this stuff, and the bulb is $200. Now it's $850. Do you want to spend $850? Because you're gonna. That's what's gonna happen. Now, Monty heard Rob on Entertainment 2.0 podcast, and his takeaway from your in-depth deep dive into HDR and all that was that Rob basically said to buy a $1,000 4K Vizio this year and then buy an HDR display in 2 years when things have settled down and they're more affordable. But Monty does not like this idea. That's a lot of money to spend every 2 years, Rob. He's not made of money, Rob. I agree, Rob. Anyways, he thinks a 1080p projector makes a lot more sense, but realistically speaking, for under $1,000, preferably under $500, what sort of image is he really going to get? And really, Best Buy ran a sale on the Vivitech H1186WT. Reviews are positive, but describe it as a home entertainment class projector. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. I've never heard that before. Home entertainment class? I mean, I guess it means like a business class. Is that what they were talking about?
Well, I mean, that's more or less Projector Central's language. You know, it's nothing official, but they sort of put things into business class, home entertainment class, home cinema class. Those are sort of the three categories. So home entertainment basically means they say, look, this is for a room that is never going to be black. Like never going to be super dark, which means it doesn't have terrific black levels. It focuses a little bit more on light output and might not have very accurate color. And that's mainly the knock against that particular Vivitech that he mentioned. They said it can be calibrated, but when you're buying it for $500, are you really going to spend $350 to have it calibrated? It's kind of unlikely. So out of the box, it doesn't have any preset color mode that was accurate. That was their big knock against it. So they're like, you know, it's kind of, this isn't a set it and forget it, you know, plug and play type of option. It's like to get it looking good, you really have to calibrate it. And to calibrate color, you have to use a light meter and test patterns. You can't just do it by eye. So there's definite trade-offs here. This is why the BenQ HT1075 that we mention frequently is so popular, because it does have an accurate out-of-the-box color mode that you can set it into. It does have even a little bit of vertical lens shift, which is unusual at that price point. And it's, you know, you can find it for well under $1,000. You can find it for like $700. So in terms of what could he realistically get for about $1,000, now he needs a screen as well, but over on Amazon, they have their Silver Ticket brand screens, which are not terribly expensive, and you get them from Amazon with free shipping. So you put together a Silver Ticket screen with that BenQ HT1075, and you've got a darn good looking image. Like, is it
how
the
much
best,
is BenQ?
you know? It's like 700. You can find it for like 700, 750.
Yeah, but he's looking for under $500, dude.
Yeah, well, that is trickier. I mean, you can certainly look for the slightly older W1070 and maybe even a refurbished one of that. So then you're starting to maybe get closer to 500 for just the projector itself. You'd have the screen on top of that.
Yeah, there's no reason you can't get a screen on Craigslist.
Oh, yeah.
You could always go look at the screen because you can see clearly right away. Just take a look at it. You know, look at it from an angle so that you can see if there's any dings in it or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I when I was on Entertainment 2.0, I was talking about this, you know, 4K Vizio. It was the specific question, which is, if I sort of need to replace my TV this year right now, should I get a 1080p TV or get a 4K? And I'm like, well, you might as well get one of these 4K Vizios because they're not tremendously more expensive. And you are at least getting something that you can play Ultra HD Blu-rays on because it has HDCP 2.2. It doesn't have high dynamic range, but it's a darn good looking 1080p TV and it's compatible with Ultra HD. So then you can start building your Ultra HD lineup without feeling like you're wasting anything. And then a couple years from now, get an HDR display if you can afford one. So that's where I was coming from there. But I totally agree that, I mean, if you're starting with a 42-inch TV and you're sitting 10 to 12 feet away, you want a projector. Screen. Yeah, you want like between, you know, 92 and 125 inches, depending on how large an image you like.
Right.
So absolutely, there's value here in getting a projector and a screen. But yeah, that BenQ sort of stands out because it's really good.
All right, Bill on Twitter asked if we have any opinions of the Klipsch Icon series bookshelf speakers. He was thinking of using them as surrounds, but also want to know how they do as fronts.
I do not like them.
I don't remember if I've ever. I thought I heard some of the Icon series before, but I don't. I think I'm thinking of Dolly had an Icon series. I heard those. So I don't know that I've heard these speakers, to be honest with you.
So this is not me saying I don't like Klipsch. This is me saying I specifically do not like the Klipsch Icon speakers because to my ear and to my mind, they don't match up with what I expect from Klipsch, which is pretty darn good quality, right? They might not be my number one choice most of the time, but I've never like anybody who's bought Klipsch reference series or something like that, I'm like, yeah, you got good speakers. It's
Yeah,
not like
I've
you made
heard
a
those.
bad choice there.
Those
Yeah.
sound good.
So the Klipsch icon was specifically a thing that was Klipsch working hand in hand with Best Buy to basically make the cheapest speakers they possibly could that Best Buy could sell exclusively.
I remember
Yeah.
those. Yes.
So you can find them at other places now because they're not making them anymore because they sucked. So I don't like them one little bit, not at all. There are much better $100 speakers that you can buy than these, in my opinion.
Anyways, he's got some 15-year-old Optimus STS 800 towers as his front speakers, center and surrounds from a Sony home theater in a box, and an AVR, then an AVR 1610, all in the open concept room that's 16 by 30 with 8 to 12 foot ceilings. Vaulted ceilings, sorry. On our advice, he got his surround speakers up higher, building his own stands. He's currently weighing them down with some bricks on their bases, but he plans to close them in and fill them with sand.
Okay.
Which is fine. He tried putting a pillow behind his head position when running Odyssey. The pillow is pushed up close against the... I'm sorry, the sofa is pushed up close against the back wall. Just adding the pillow was enough to get Odyssey to no longer say his center speaker was wired out of phase.
Yeah.
Which is what happens when it says a slap echo off the back wall.
Yeah, that's right.
So DIY absorption panels are Bill's next big project. He also found someone selling one of their older SVS PP12 Plus/2 subwoofers for under $400. That thing is 18 by 25 by 25 with dual drivers, and it weighs more than his wife.
And that's not even an exaggeration. Like, you know, sometimes we say, like, this thing weighs more than whatever. It's like, no, it literally weighs more than his wife.
I'm sure it does. I think the thing weighs like 150 pounds. It's like massive.
It is huge.
It is massive. It's one of those ones back when the SVS had lost their minds for a while. Compared to his old Sony home theater in a box sub, it has made something of a difference. The difference being things have broken in his house, including his back. He currently has it next to a sofa on the back wall since this room is open concept that actually puts it close to the center of the total room size. His old sub used to be in the corner, and he isn't certain where this new SVS will actually sound the most even. It's so huge and heavy, though, that he doesn't want to move it. He doesn't have to. Is there any easy way to tell where it will sound best?
Ooh.
Not without moving it.
You're going to have to move it at least once. Or twice. Yeah, there and to wherever it will.
It's awfully close to his seat position right now.
But it really kind of isn't.
It's kind of behind the couch, isn't it? Kind of behind the couch.
We'll put it this way. I mean, he can have the sub where it is and sit in his primary seat at the same time. To do what we're going to propose, that would have to not be the case.
You have to put it in your prime listening position. The problem with this sub is that you can't, like most subs, just put it on the chair because you might break the chair.
That's right.
You're at very least run the risk of impaling like a corner into something or something. Because what you want to do is you want to put it in your prime seat, and then crawl around on the floor to find the best spot.
Yeah.
Honestly, dude, what I would do is leave it right where it is.
Yes.
I would leave it where it is and tell my wife that in order to make it sound the best, I need another one, probably a cylinder, and you just put it across the room from it. Which technically, if I remember, now I closed all these links when I was having problems. So I'm going to click it now, and everything's going to go to crap, and I'm probably going to lose the call, and it's all going to be this dude's fault. But whatever. I would just plan on putting another sub across from it.
Yeah.
In the future, and just live with whatever bass you get from it, from where it is. It's too big to move. It really is.
I mean, if it were more reasonable, we'd be saying, take the sub, put it in your primary seat, do the subwoofer crawl. You play a bass sweep on repeat, and you walk around to all the spots where your subwoofer might live and listen for the response where it is the most linear. That's what you're listening for. You're not necessarily listening for the strongest bass, like they sometimes say. You want that bass sweep to sound even in volume as it sweeps from top to bottom over and over and over again. So there's no way to do that without moving the sub. So I can see where you are now. Theoretically, it should already be in a pretty good spot. It's already on a wall in the middle of that dimension of that wall. So what I would try doing is, without moving it, put a bass sweep on repeat, sit in your primary seat, and see how linear it sounds. Because if it sounds fairly linear, you're done. You didn't have to do anything. If you hear a huge peak or a huge null in your primary seat, switch primary seats, move over a seat, because it probably sounds better in the seat next to your primary seat.
Right. Move to
That's
the left
still
one.
that's still easier than moving the sub. So,
Everything's easier than moving this up. Okay, so I would put it. It looks like there's a door to a. I gotta find I wish I could see the. Well, I'm trying to see the front of this room here.
hmm.
Anyway, he's got a picture of the kitchen. He's got a picture of everything but what I want to see. There looks like there's a door across from you, right, or a doorway into a bathroom area, maybe a hallway. I would put it to your second sub to the left, like if you're facing it to the left of that doorway, so closer to your bar stools and all that, rather than directly across from it, because I think you're slightly, considering the total space of your room, you're slightly off center towards the patio. So if you off center the other one, to, towards the front of the house a little bit, not much, just a couple of feet, I think that'll make the most sense linear. If you can, what I think you should get is a cylinder sub.
Yeah.
Put it across the room from you, because it's going to be. I can't see what's there is the problem. I can't see if there's like a hutch there, or if you have something else going on over there. I can't see. So, but that's
Yeah,
what
I mean, he's got the TV over the fireplace,
right.
his front, left, and right speakers flanking the fireplace, and then right beside the fireplace is this entryway. So he can't put a subwoofer in front of that entryway.
No, obviously not.
So yeah, it would have to go over to beside the entryway. But yeah, I mean, the whole idea is try to get the two subwoofers across the room from one another. So
Yeah.
that
I just can't see what's on the other side of that opening, that doorway, whatever's over there.
Yeah, it's going into a hallway that leads to a bathroom. So
yeah, I can't see what's on. So, anyways, that's what I would do.
Yep.
Okay. I gotta get back to this. Wow, that's a lot of words. If you got a second sub, we already answered that.
Yes.
Yes. So yes, I would get a cylinder sub. I would not try to get another one this big. It doesn't have to be like, this thing is big enough that you could use it in like a concert venue. Like this could, like a real like 30-person theater. You could have two of these things and pressurize it pretty much. I mean, this is a massive. They were way overpowered.
Yeah.
That's fine. It was cheap.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you got it for under $400? Yeah, it was cheap. And when your wife gets sick of it, you could sell it for probably a profit.
Yeah.
And get yourself another cylinder sub to go with the cylinder sub you're going to put across. Yeah. So anyways, he also says there's a I think there's 3 ports on that thing. Isn't that one of the ones with 3 ports where you can plug them and they have all the plugs and all that crap?
It's one of the older ones, so I can't remember if it had the port tuning in it or not.
It probably did. So he asked he asked if there's a particular direction he should point the ports. No, not the wall. If you can.
I mean, anywhere that they're not going to be utterly blocked by something, but other than that, doesn't matter.
Yeah. So he says, which of his speakers should he upgrade next? How much should he spend? All of your money, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, what? Don't tell us how much we think you should spend. What would we recommend if bang for the buck is type priority? I don't know that I can answer this question. I mean, clearly he needs a bigger TV. That's clear. He needs another sub. If you're sitting in that main seat and you do your bass sweep and it sounds really uneven, well, your bang for the buck is going to be to get another sub. If that sounds kind of okay, then, and you're not happy with your speakers, because he says he's got some.
Yeah, I mean, the center and the surrounds are from a Sony home theater in a box. That to me is
the center. Yeah. And honestly, in the type of setting he's in, I think he should be going with bookshelf speakers. Something smaller that he can maybe wall mount, like next to his TV. Look, I think how happy your wife would be if you didn't have those. I mean, I don't know. Maybe she really loves them, but if you didn't have those towers, and you certainly don't need the bass from the towers anymore, and you're not sitting that far away from these speakers, so you could go with smaller speakers.
Yep.
What about getting some CR2s? I bet Rob would like that.
Ooh.
Rob would like that if you did that.
As far as bang for buck, it's hard to say that $1,500 a pair is the highest bang for buck out there.
No, it's not.
If you're looking in that price range, you will not be disappointed by them, but I don't think that's quite the sort of price range he's looking for. I mean, bang for buck tends to be about, the $500 per pair type of range. You start getting some very good bookshelf speakers for $500 a pair.
$500, $1,000. It's like the $500, $1,000 is a big improvement over $500. $1,500 to $2,000, and then it sort of jumps up to like $4,000 or $5,000.
Yeah. Now, one concern I have is that he has his I think it's a plasma TV. If it's not, it's a flat panel of some sort mounted above his fireplace. That does not look like it's going to be something that's going to be easy to move. And it's left not a lot of space between the bottom
Underneath.
of the TV and the top of the mantle, which is where he has his center speaker currently mounted.
Yeah.
Now, he could use a wall mount that just sticks out a bit and set a center speaker on top of that, perhaps, or mount it to it. But he really hasn't left a lot of space there for a new center speaker, which kind of has me starting to lean towards thinner wall mountable speakers like the Golden Ear Supersats or the Revel on wall speakers.
There's those Kef ones too that are really thin, right?
Yeah, but the Kef ones are very thin from front to back, but they're kind of wide because they had to make up the surface area somehow.
I bet you can move that thing up a little bit, couldn't you, dude? I bet you could move it up if you really tried.
Well, I mean, it could be done, of course, but it's a
well,
mouse
honestly,
back there.
I mean,
sure
it's you know, if you take into account the bevel and everything else, you've got some room. You got enough room there for a normal sized center channel speaker, don't you think? It's close.
It's gonna be, could be very squishy.
I don't think it's flush mounted. It's got to be on it. You think it's flush mounted?
No, it can't because it's a home theater in a box one. So there's some depth to that little.
No, I'm
speaker.
talking about the
the TV. I don't think it's perfectly flush mounted. There's
so therefore yeah, there must be like a wall mount behind there, and you could raise it up. And it looks like there's wires hanging down too.
There does.
So yeah, that's got to be off the wall. So if it's going to be like that, just move it up some. Take it out, move it up some, put it back, move it back in, and then get a regular bookshelf speaker. Yes, I know you don't want to do that because it'll be even higher than your neck will crane. And then just think about this. After your wife complains about it enough, you go, you know what we could really do is we could just drop a projection screen right in front of this bad boy. Whenever we wanted.
Yep.
And it would be the right size.
Acoustically transparent would be handy so you could have the center channel there.
That's right.
Behind the screen.
Think how sexy that would be, honey.
So I mean, in terms of bang for buck, of course, we really like NHT for those little Super Zeros and the rest of their speaker lineup. I really like Ascend acoustics, like the HTM 200s, which we actually might talk about later if we get to that question. HTM 200s, they're wall mountable, they're sealed, they work really well in setups like this. Really good bang for your buck there. If the whole center channel thing is a consideration, like I think it might be, I would definitely have a look at, like, particularly the Golden Ear Supersats. I think you might really like those. So that's something I would highly recommend having a look.
Yeah, it's hard for us to give you a bang for the buck suggestion. We don't know what your real complaints are. Obviously, your complaint right now
kind of
is
guess
not,
with a Sony
not
home
enough
theater
bass.
and a box speaker.
Not enough bass is not your complaint right now. We're pretty sure about that. All right, Jim over on Twitter, he noticed that Vizio's current M series lineup of TVs include both a 50-inch model and a 49-inch model. Gotta love Vizios. The M49C1 lists in its specs as an IPS panel. Every other M series model is a VA panel. So what's the scoop? Why have two models so close in size and this lone IPS model? I don't know what any of that means, by the way.
So IPS stands for in-plane switching, which is a particular type of LCD, and VA stands for vertically aligned, which is a different type of LCD. Now, each of them has their advantages. In-plane switching panels have the advantage of wider viewing angles. You can look at them from off-axis without the colors completely washing out, like they do on a VA panel. VA panels, as soon as you get off axis, the colors tend to wash out and the black levels tend to rise. However, when you're viewing them on axis, VA panels are much better at blocking light, so you get deeper black levels and better contrast. IPS panels have that, what you typically consider like a laptop LCD look, where they're kind of, not the greatest black levels.
Was a computer monitor more for computers? Is that what
Not really. I mean, what happened was, I'm actually kind of glad they separated between the 49-inch and the 50-inch model, because last year they had various sizes where there was an IPS version and a VA version. And you couldn't really tell by the model number. You had to look at like the serial number to tell whether you were getting an IPS panel or a VA panel within the same size. So at least they've delineated this year and said, look, if you want IPS, it's the 49. If you want VA, it's the 50. And that's about it. So at least they've improved in that sense. And the reason to have an IPS model at all is because some people say, what matters most to me is being able to view this from off axis, particularly if it's like a bar or, a panel that's going to be used to like display information constantly. Right. You just want to be able to see it from every angle. That's kind of why it's there. More or less at home, if you're going to be sitting in front of it, you want the VA panel for the better black levels and the better contrast. So that's sort of the scoop.
Yep. Okay. Uh, yeah, Joshua. So if you're doing this for the home, you want the VA panel. Is that when that was that the
Yeah,
takeaway for
more or
that?
less. I mean, unless your number one priority is off-axis viewing. That's really the only
Nobody's
time.
number one priority is that. Nobody at home.
There you go.
That's what people complain. They would complain about it like it's something like, oh, those LCDs, you can't sit way off axis and watch them. I'm like, you don't sit way off axis and watch. But I know, but I couldn't if I wanted to. But you don't want to, and you never will. You will always sit on the couch that's sitting in front of the stupid TV. Yeah, but what if I wanted to sit in the backyard and see it? What? Anyways, Joshua. He sometimes listens to music from a Chromecast with the TV off, except that every time an app would connect or reconnect, the TV would turn on.
Yeah.
Which is annoying. He tried to find a way to disable this on the Chromecast, but couldn't find anything. So he checked the TV settings and found that HDMI CEC, which Emerson, which is the TV he's using, calls FunLink.
Yeah, no wonder you didn't find that. I wouldn't have looked for that either.
The fun link was enabled. I mean, who doesn't want to have fun? If your idea of fun is messing everything up, then the HDMI CEC is certainly a fun link. Like, if your go-to why is my HDMI connection working weird answer is turn off HDMI CEC, then yes, clearly fun link is the right terminology for that.
Yeah, see, I would never have searched the PDF manual for that term.
No.
Wouldn't have ever entered my mind.
Would have come up anyways.
Anyways,
he disabled that and it solved his problem. This is not a question. He just wanted to share that you just because you want to have fun.
Oh man.
And you're a girl that wants to have fun. Anyways, that's a. Anyways, fun link. Yeah, link. No good. So once again, HDMI CEC is an annoyance.
God, that thing.
Quite possibly the worst thing HDMI has ever put out, and that's saying something. HDMI, terrible. All right, Timothy took our advice and set the volume dials on his two subwoofers so that each of them individually reads 72 dB on his SPL meter at his primary seating location. He's no longer distracted by the subwoofer behind him, obviously being louder. So he says, "Thanks. You're welcome."
All right, level matching. Yay.
Yay. His room is 18.5 by 17 by 10. He's using a Denon AVR S900 and dual BIC F12 subs, which he plans to upgrade to SVSPC 2000s. Ooh. One sub is at the center of his front wall, and the other sub is the center of his back wall. He sits 5.5 feet from the back wall.
All right. 13 feet from the front wall.
Yeah, okay, there we go. I was trying to figure out which dimension was which there. All right, currently when he runs Odyssey, it sets the subwoofer trim levels to -12.
Woo!
Which is weird.
Well, not really. It just means he has the volume dials on both subs turned up quite a bit.
Yeah, but he says he already level matched him to 72 on his...
With an SPL meter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it says set the trim level on to -12. There's only one subwoofer output, and yet when he plays the test tones using the SPL meter, everything seems much quieter. Should he manually increase the trim levels as set by Odyssey? There are also other subwoofer level adjustments available in the menu. His current F12s aren't all that powerful. What gives?
What gives is this is an S900, which means when you play the internal test tones, they are affected by the master volume dial.
So you have to turn the master volume dial up to 0.
That's right.
And then play your test tones and adjust your volumes to 72 dB for each sub. And then you can run Odyssey, because Odyssey will turn the dial up to 0 for you when it runs Odyssey, and that's why you're getting that. Your subs are too hot, basically.
Yeah, this is something that trips up a lot of people because
I wish they wouldn't have done that. Why did they do that?
I don't know why.
I'm thinking it's an oversight. It's an oversight. Somebody just messed it up.
Well, I think maybe one reason they did it is because let's say it was fixed, right? At like when you turn on the manual internal test tones. If it automatically adjusted itself to 0 dB then, and then it went back, everyone would say, well, I just adjusted and everything sounds super quiet, right?
Yeah.
So I think they wanted to avoid that. So they're like, look, we'll just wherever you left the volume dial, we'll just go with that because they're assuming that you're adjusting things by ear, I guess, when you're using the manual test tones. I mean, that's my only stab at it. But this is something that trips up a lot of people because the whole reference volume 0 dB on the volume dial thing is something a lot of people are not used to, right? Everyone sort of has it in their mind that the master volume dial is like a percentage, right? You see that all the time. Like there are people who complain, why are the numbers in negative numbers to begin with? That's not intuitive, right? Why don't they just have a scale from 0 to 100 so I know how much of my amplifier I'm using? Well, it doesn't work like that. It's not a percentage. It's not how much power you're pushing into your speakers. The speakers are drawing power. And the whole idea of 0 dB is that it is this industry-wide, at least within the movie industry, reference volume so that when they're making the movie, they know how loud it is and you are now hearing it at an equal loudness inside your home as when they made it. So it's all reference to the 0 dB. It seems unusually high because people aren't used to using that, but that is the reference. So set your master volume dial to 0 dB, then do your manual test tones with your SPL meter. You will find that you are turning down the volume dials on the back of your BIC subs.
Yes.
Probably a fair amount. Then when you run Odyssey, everything should be
at least 12 dB.
everything should be even. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, okay, if you think about it this way, if you are level matching your speakers, if you're level, it doesn't really matter what volume you're level matching them at. It matters that they're all the same volume when you're done.
Yeah.
But that's not what you're doing. That's the thing you need to understand. Usually what we would do when you're level matching your speakers is you start with each speaker and you get it to be that you're like, okay, well, this first one is 70 dB is what's coming out of it right now. Next one, oh, it's 72. I'll back that one down too. The other one, 74, 69. I'll bump that up one, and you go all the way around. Well, once they're all level matched, they're all level matched, and then Odyssey, theoretically, when it runs its stuff, it'll re-level match them for you. But you would have turned the volume dial down on your subwoofer because you were level matching to the speakers. But you're not doing that. You're going just to the 72 dB just for the subs and not worrying what the test tones sound like for the other. Now, when you do, like right now, before you do all the other stuff that you just said, just have the test tones play through all the speakers.
Right.
One at a time. And listen to them. And do you notice that every speaker sounds nice and quiet and your subs are much louder? That tells you why that this happened. Now, if you had done the full calibration, if you had done the full thing and level matched them all to each other, you would have ended up with 72 dB on your subs.
Yeah.
Is where you would have ended up.
Yep.
No.
So.
But we're skipping the other speakers because we're like, oh, no, the Odyssey will do those speakers for you. You don't have to worry about that. But by skipping those other speakers, you're not realizing that your subs are actually playing much louder than they should be. So there. Ash, other than physical stability, does filling a speaker stands have any audible impact? Like a lot of speaker stands are hollow, and you can fill them up with, like, some people, they have those lead balls, whatever. And then there was lead balls covered in plastic because
Rubber,
they didn't want them to rattle in there. And then there's sand. People
Kitty
do
litter.
Kitty litter. It's a popular choice. Anything that absorbs moisture and doesn't rot. No.
Yeah, non-clumping kitty litter, by the way.
Really? I guess one would think.
Yeah, you don't want clumping kitty litter.
I can't think of any audible impact it's going to have.
Well, I mean, it can if the stands beforehand were like resonant.
Wobbly. Yeah, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, they could be, right? If you have a hollow stand, I mean, knock on the side of it with your knuckles. If it goes thump, thump, thump like a big empty bass drum, then filling it up with something will absolutely change the sound. So, but that's about it. And don't fill them all the way up to the top. Fill them like halfway or at most 3/4 way, because the idea is to have the bottom of it heavier
than the top.
Than the top of it. So if you have a tall, hollow stand and you only fill it halfway, it might still be kind of hollow. You will have raised the resonant frequency to a higher frequency by filling it halfway, but it might still be kind of hollow. But it can have an audible impact. It depends on how resonant it was before. Yeah.
Yeah. It probably doesn't, though. Anyways, it's probably not going to make any audible impact. He's going to buy new surround speakers to match his Q Acoustics front 3 and replace his Onkyo satellite speakers. Okay. Since Akio doesn't really make speakers, that's a good idea. For the surrounds, he's going to have to buy new stands. The taller versions of his existing stands are expensive, but he likes the look so much that he feels he has no choice.
Okay.
That's just a statement of fact.
It
For
is.
his surround back speakers, though, they are already on top of bookcases. They need to be a bit higher than where they are now. So he's wondering if he can use the ISO Acoustics L8R later. Is that what that's supposed to be?
I don't
Later
know.
155 isolation stands, which are the perfect height. These things look like they look like if you wanted to put like little bouncy thingies on your shoes to make you jump higher. Like that's what they look like. They have like springs in them, and they look all high techy, and they're kind of sexy. I like them. Anyways, none of this is a question. This is what he wants to get.
Yeah.
He's a bit concerned about these ISO acoustic stands because the video shown on their product page, are the audible differences in that video actually real, or is there some trickery going on? Yeah, that's definitely not real. Let's just go with that.
I'm calling some fakeness going on with that one. Yeah.
That is completely not. I mean, first of all, it really sounds like they're doing something with phase. Did it sound that way to you? It sounded like one of the speakers was
EQ'd to me.
Oh, something's like, going on.
Quite strongly EQ'd. Yeah.
Yeah, it almost to me sounded like there was some phase stuff. Like one of the speakers was wire out of phase or something.
Yeah.
And it was really weird the way they had the mic. Like they had two speakers, but the microphone only in front of one of them. Kind of. It was very odd. The whole thing was odd.
Yeah, that demonstration certainly seemed hinky. Now here's the thing. I am absolutely a supporter of decoupling, damping beneath your speakers and subwoofers. If you have them sitting on something that rattles or wobbles or resonates, then putting some sort of damping, be it a pillow, a folded up blanket, a mouse pad, whatever you want underneath it, it can help reduce resonance and rattles and things like that. But it doesn't completely alter the sound of the speaker the way this video demonstrates.
A massive this is difference.
This is overblown. You might hear a little bit less resonance in the bass or something like that because maybe the table it was sitting on before is a hollow table and it was resonating, and so it emphasized some of the bass frequencies. And then you put it on top of a isolation device, and that bit of resonance is reduced. That I could see happening. But the difference shown in this video is way more than that. I definitely think they're messing with the sound. It's not just the isolation stand.
I have to agree. It really that I listened to that went. Like I first of all, when you listen to the two, I'm not exactly sure which one's supposed to sound better because they sound so different.
That's right.
They sound so different that I can't tell which one I'm supposed to think sounds better. Like one's bassier than the other, but in the other one's has much more high frequency information. I'm like, well, I kind of like that one too.
Yeah, there's no way the isolation thing is affecting the high frequencies.
It's just very weird. Yeah, they've done something, and that guy.
Or maybe those are like really directional microphones, and because one of them's higher, you're like losing all the high frequencies.
Because they're not exactly in the same spot with the.
That's right.
It's the whole thing is hinky.
It is.
That being said, I got no problems with the stand.
I know. If they're the correct height, that's fine. I think they're a little overpriced. I got to be honest for what you're getting there. But at the same time, if they're the perfect height for what you want, I mean,
what about the what you call them the ones from Orlex, the little mopeds?
Yeah, there's the mopeds, but they're not nearly as tall as these.
I'd put a book underneath them.
Yeah,
something.
I know.
A block of wood doesn't matter. Paint it black. I love those stands. I mean, they look good, but now I'm worried they're going to actually squeak. You know what I mean? They look like they might squeak or something. And if they've got that much BS going on, get a good return policy. That's all I'm saying. Buy it from Amazon where you can go, this is and send it back.
I mean, I would say if the reason you're buying them is because you like the looks and they're the perfect height for what you need, and that's the reason you're buying them and you're okay with overpaying for them, okay. But if you're thinking you're going to get some massive change in sound quality from them, no, that's not going to happen.
All right. He has an older Mac Mini with no HDMI connection that he uses just for music. He was going to upgrade to a new Mac Mini to use with Plex until he heard about the lossless True HD and DTS HDMA bitstream problems imposed by OS X. I can say OS X. You don't have to boss me. He doesn't want it to dual boot with Windows on the Mac Mini. Could a Raspberry Pi work as a cheap Plex client with lossless audio bitstream output?
No, I'm sorry. I researched this a fair amount, and they're like, yeah, the Raspberry Pi with its particular hardware setup and its Linux-based system, even though there are Linux-based systems that can do bitstream output, with this particular hardware, it doesn't look like it's happening. And they're like, well, maybe, and they're like, no,
You get
it's
that
just, it's
NVIDIA thing, right?
yeah, exactly. The NVIDIA Shield, which is obviously quite a bit more expensive than a Raspberry Pi, so that's the
The Raspberry
downside.
Pi like $35. You didn't really think that
Yeah.
would work, did you?
Yeah. So the thing is, Android TV, there are many Android TV boxes out there, many of them less expensive than the NVIDIA Shield. We were just talking to someone in the Hangout party last week, and now for the life of me, I can't remember the exact Android TV model that he pointed us to. It was some company I've never heard of, and they were
Oh, that's
selling a
right.
box for like $135 or something like that. Still $100 more than the Raspberry Pi. But basically, if you want
Cheaper than a Mac Mini, though.
exactly. If you want a somewhat inexpensive box that can run Plex and can output lossless audio, you'll want to look for an Android TV box and make sure that it has bitstream output because not all of them do. But
Right.
there definitely are some, and Android TV is the operating system you're going to want to look for one of those inexpensive boxes.
So, anyways, he's also thinking of buying a Harmony remote, but he wants to know if there's any way to specify having certain commands sent only via Wi-Fi, while others are sent only via IR. Since he has both a Marantz SR5009 and a PM6005, he wants the volume on the PM6005 to stay where it is, and using IR commands messes up his volume because the codes are the same for both devices. Do you need to control the other one? I guess he does need to control it, doesn't he?
Well, yeah, because he doesn't want to just like tape over the IR sensor.
That's what I
he
was
still wants,
thinking. That was
he
my
still wants
first
to be able
thought.
to turn it on. Right?
Yeah.
He'd still like to be able to hit the power button
It's not like a
and have it
12-volt
turn
trigger you could use maybe to turn that thing on.
on. No,
Your
because
solution would be if you were like a Crestron programmer was to use the RS-232 port and do it that way, but you're not going to do that.
Not with a Harmony.
There's no way that I know of to just send something over Wi-Fi and the other stuff to be sent over IR.
No, not with the Harmony system. Everything is blasted in every conceivable form when you send a command. So Harmony isn't the solution here. Now there is something that used to be called Roomy Remote, which is an app-based system that connects to your Wi-Fi network, and then you can connect an IR blaster that also connects to your Wi-Fi network. They are now called Smart Control. They've changed their name, so the name of the thing is now Smart Control. I don't know for 100% certain, but I do know that you can specify that like only certain devices require the IR blaster, so there might be a way to trick it. However, anything that comes out of that IR blaster is still going to work on both of these devices because they're both Marantz and they use the same codes.
Right.
So even that isn't really a solution because if you're saying, hey, I just want the power command just for the PM6005 and I want all other commands to only be Wi-Fi going to the 5009, then that power command is still going to control both. So, I mean, that might work. You might just take the power command away from the Wi-Fi controller and just say, all right, just blast this out via IR. So that might work. Smart Control is something I'd look into, but I don't know for 100% certain that it'll do it. I just know it's more programmable than Harmony as far as that goes, but it's all app-based, so you have to be fine with using a tablet or phone or something like that as your remote control.
Some of these devices, I don't know if the one that you're thinking about is this way as well, but some of these devices, what they do is they have a volume on a power on volume setting. So when you turn the unit on, it will change the volume to whatever that setting is.
Then it'll still change from that point forward.
That's true. So you're right. So that is but what
Yeah. So I think the other one is, now I'm looking this up, but most AV receivers have at least 2 sets of IR commands so that if you had 2 of them, you could have separate remotes for each of them. I'm going to have to look this up with the SR5009 if it has that. If it does, those codes might not be in Harmony's database for IR2, like IR remote version 2, but you can learn them, right? You can learn them from the remote into your Harmony. And that, if it exists, might be a solution. So I'm going to search for that real quick. And yeah, I'll see if that works. So I might be typing away in the background, but if that comes up, I will chime in.
All right. John over on Facebook spotted some foamular, foamular, yeah, insulation panels, and wondered how well they might work as acoustic panels. Okay, so we took a look at these, and I'm getting an email that I need to check here.
I
Offline?
see.
Are we offline? I don't think we are.
Oh, not that I know of, but oh well.
We seem to be talking to each other. I'm not offline. Where's our thing? Now I'm going over here. Yeah, the broadcast is going, says live. So whatever. Sorry guys. We
It's
only
on
got
the
2
receiving
viewers.
end.
Maybe that's why. Anyways, Foamular. It's a it says energy saving moisture resistant XPS insulation. It's pink stuff. It comes in panels.
And
The
it is
problem
rigid.
it is rigid. The problem I have with this is it says this product is combustible. A protective barrier or thermal barrier is required as specified in the appropriate building code. Blah 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 for information. I don't. First of all, I don't see any reason why this would, I mean, be something I'd want to use. But anything that's combustible, like by nature, I don't want it in my home theater. So, and the funny thing is, it's right next. Whatever he took the picture of, it's right next to some Weber products. I'm like, well, that's a good idea. Let's put it right next to the stuff that's on fire. They look like almost like ceiling tiles, like pink ceiling tiles for those drop ceilings. Is kind of what they look like. But I imagine that they are not working. They will not be working.
Yeah, no, this is the rigid stuff that's meant to go like in a basement. You can even like walk on top of it. So this is not something that would work for acoustic treatments. You do not want a rigid, solid thing. You want something that's kind of fluffy and will absorb sound and allow air to move through it. So, I mean, even like regular foam, like squishy foam, which is more or less what like Oralex uses for most of their products, not the greatest, really. I mean, we far prefer something that's actually made out of, you know, an insulation type material. So yeah, solid panels like this are not the type of insulation you're looking for. I know they are a form of insulation, and we've mentioned like, oh, almost any form of insulation works. No, we mean the type that goes inside a wall that, you know, is squishy. So that's the stuff we're looking for, not rigid. Yes, other people have told us they lost their feed. Oh, well, the audio version will be fine.
All right, I'm just going to finish this last couple of seconds. Okay, there we go. All right. Oh, I lost my thing. I have to go like this. All right, here we go. Coming down. Ash, is that who?
Ariel.
John. All right, Ariel, whatever. She recently bought a Yamaha RX A2050 receiver, but is considering returning for a Denon AVR X4200. Would this be a good decision? Yes.
You don't need to.
You don't need to, but
No,
you'll get
I mean-
Odyssey. So there's that.
Right. I mean, this goes into the second thing you asked, which is that, you know, we mentioned Denon and Marantz most frequently, certainly in the articles that I wrote up that you can find still at avrant.com about what receiver to buy. I primarily talk about Denon and Marantz, and he's like, well, I know love for Yamaha. And you will notice if I went in those articles that Yamaha is definitely the second choice or third choice if you want to call Denon and Marantz 1 and 2, but really they're a tie for first place. So Yamaha is the second place choice. Really, it's because, yeah, we tend to favor Odyssey as far as auto room setup and auto room correction goes over YPOW. And the other reason is because as far as Atmos setups go, the Denon Marantz models allow you to assign top middle or Dolby enabled surround positions, whereas Yamaha does not. Yamaha allows top front or front height. They allow top rear or rear height, but they do not allow the top middle position to be chosen. It's not even an option. So since I actually favor the combination of front height and top middle positions, as opposed to top front and top rear, that's not even an option with the Yamaha. So
That's if you're happy with the room correction that you've got,
right,
and you're happy with whatever Odyssey you are, Atmos you are or are not using, then there's no reason for you to switch. But if you want the better room correction system, and that's not a subjective thing, I don't think. I think it's pretty objective at this point. Odyssey is clearly, in as far as the consumer level products, is the best that's out there. And the minute there's somebody better, believe us, we will sell you. Like if we get Dirac into more stuff, and we start, we do a head-to-head in comparison, we'll let you know that if we like that one better, or if Yamaha comes out with something else, or if Pioneer. Sorry, just joking. Anyways,
MCACC Pro is not bad.
yeah,
That's what they're using now.
It's got a good personality. It's got a good personality. Just got to get to know it. But that's why we recommend. We recommend it because the best feature sets, and there's nothing wrong with Yamahas. I got no problems with Yamahas. It's just that if somebody asks me what they should buy, I tell them what I think they should buy, and that, or what I would buy, and that's what I would buy.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the 2050 in particular is kind of a unique model because it actually has 9 amplifiers built in, but it tops out at 9. So in the Denon and Marantz lineups, if you get a model that has 9 amps built in, you can expand it to 11. Yeah, but they're all more expensive, right? So the 2050 it's a little bit more expensive, like on Amazon, than the, say, Denon 4200 or the Marantz 6010, which are the competing models. But both the 4200 and the 6010 have 7 amps built in and then top out at 9. So you'd have to add at least, a couple $100 or something like that for a 2-channel amp, and then they're now more expensive than the 2050. So as far as the value of how many amps are built in goes, the 2050 is kind of unique. It's got 9 amps built in.
There you go. Yeah. He's also thinking of expanding his 7.1 system to 5.1.4 or 7.1.2 Atmos. But there are 2 problems. There is a ceiling fan, and the ceiling is sloped. And based on the pics, are ceiling speakers even possible? If so, where should they be placed? Okay, so the way that his ceiling is it's vaulted, right? Am I remembering this correctly?
It's
vaulted, but the vault does not go front to back. It goes side to side.
Right, so it's sloped in front and sloped behind, right? So the like peak of the thing is running from left to right.
Right.
And then it slopes down towards the front and it slopes down towards the back. And there's a ceiling fan right in the middle, right in that peak.
Right in that peak up there. So if you were, it's really weird. If you don't want your speakers angled with their Atmos, right? You want them firing straight down.
Yeah.
I mean, you could put them on the wall, the slope that's kind of facing you, and call them top middles.
That's right. Yeah. Or top fronts. I mean, you might want to experiment calling them either top fronts. If you're keeping the Yamaha, you only have a choice of calling them top fronts anyway. So
there you go.
But that is, I mean, I would, in his situation, I would leave his 7.1 setup as it is. I wouldn't change a darn thing about that. I would only add top fronts. And I would go ahead and install them in that angled ceiling, and I wouldn't worry tremendously about it because it's going to give you a sense of sound coming from overhead. Yeah. And that's effectively what you're going for. And you have at least one pair of speakers somewhere behind you already. So you're done as far as I'm concerned. Yeah.
Though the 0.1 is bothering me. So you got to fix that too while you're at it. So his Ken the Deft, his next question, and I see that we've got more viewers on, so I guess it fixed
whatever happened.
Itself.
Thanks.
Whatever happened to it, it fixed it. Can the Deft Tech SR 8040 BP bipole speakers currently in the back surround positions be repurposed as ceiling speakers?
Yeah,
but you could do anything you want. I mean, you could staple a tower speaker to your ceiling if you're really dedicated to that idea. Now, would the Atmos Dolby, if you ask them, would they want you to put a bipole speaker up there? I'm guessing no.
Well,
not really.
They just want something with really wide dispersion, and a bipole speaker fits the description of really wide dispersion.
But as Rob said, leave the ones you've got back there as it is, and then you can put something different up there. And if you want to get more of these, that's fine too.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, as far as what goes on or in your ceiling, as long as it's not like a beamy speaker that will really draw attention to itself, that's about the only thing you're trying to avoid. Anything that's got decently wide dispersion, you can put up there on or in your ceiling.
Jason has an Oppo BDP-A3. Lately, he's been having audio dropouts when outputting from the HDMI 2 port while playing CDs and SACDs. He hasn't tested DVDs or Blu-rays yet. I'm guessing it would be the same. But anyways. And when the audio drops, it restarts the currently playing track.
Yeah.
That's weird. Using HDMI 1 on the Oppo works fine. He's already tried switching cables and HDMI inputs on his receiver. He's contacted Oppo support and will let us know what they say when he gets a reply, but wanted to run the problem by us as well. Yeah, well, I think you've got the solution, which is don't use that port anymore. I mean, clearly that's a problem.
Well, that's not really a solution when he wants. The problem is that his AV receiver is old enough that it doesn't support 3D.
Right.
Pass through, and he does have a 3D TV, and I guess occasionally watches 3D. So, I mean, this is the whole point of having two HDMI outputs, is that you can send one of those outputs with just video directly to the television, bypass the AV receiver just for the video signal, and then use the second HDMI output just for audio. That's the whole idea. So that's what he's doing, except he's getting this odd issue where it's skipping and then resetting the track when he's doing audio only.
Right.
So the fact that it's working when he just uses the HDMI 1 output
tells you that's the port.
It seems like it's probably something in the Oppo. However, let's not entirely discount the possibility of our good friend HDMI CEC.
That's the first thing I wanted to say. I was like, are we really going to go HDMI CEC? Like, that is the answer to all the questions. The answer is HDMI CEC, or the fun link, as we like to call it.
That's right. It could be, particularly because I briefly looked through the manual of that Oppo, and not only do both HDMI ports on the Oppo have HDMI CEC, they have independent HDMI CEC. You can turn it off on one of them and leave it on the other.
Dude, it is totally HDMI CEC. Are you kidding me?
It very well might be. You might have even gone in there and said, yeah, I turned it off, but you might have only turned it off for HDMI port 1 and not for HDMI port 2. That's a possibility, because that is possible on the Oppo to have separate HDMI CEC settings for each HDMI output. I would definitely check that, because that costs you nothing. So have a look at that. I would also try setting the primary HDMI output to both, because the manual is a little bit unclear, but at one point they mentioned if you want lossless bitstream transfer over the HDMI 2.0 or 2.0, the HDMI 2 output, that you should actually set HDMI 2 as the primary output. Now that shouldn't be affecting CDs, because that has nothing to do with that, or SACDs for that matter. But again, it's free to try, so try setting HDMI 2 as the primary output.
It's totally CC. That's done. It's CC. Just admit it and go fix it, and then come back and tell us that's what it was, because it is. Because it's evil. It was made by the devil to torture us. Edward and his ping pong theater are back.
Yes.
He was about to buy an Optima HD25 LV to replace his old HDMI HD70. So going down in numbers, though. That's not right. But the Projector Central calculator puts his screen size and distance in the recommended brightness for rooms with ambient light range. Mm-hmm. Can the brightness be adjusted to accommodate a darker room, or is it possible for a projector to be just too bright? Oh, what it's possible for, and as we discussed earlier, what it's possible is that it is designed for bright rooms, and they didn't really care how good the black levels were. In which case, when you put it into a really black room, you're going to realize that the blackest it gets is sort of grayish.
Well, yeah, I want to address the whole Projector Central calculator. Because they are going by the spec sheet, because that's all they can really
that's all they can go by. Yeah.
So they're going by the spec sheet. And as we've mentioned, when it comes to lamp-based projectors, when they state a lumen output on the spec sheet, that's like pie in the sky. We set this thing to output as much light as possible, color accuracy and everything else be damned. Like, we're just going for it as much light as we can. You will never watch it in that mode. So most projectors basically take whatever's on the spec sheet and cut it in half, because that's probably what you're going to be closer to getting. So when they have these light ranges of, recommended for only a super dark theater, recommended for, a modest amount of ambient light, or recommended for a lit room, they're going by the spec sheet number. So I don't really think Projector Central should even have that on there, because it's never accurate. It just never is. Now, that said, the HD25 LV, the LV stands for living room, as far as I know.
That's a stupid abbreviation for living room. It should be LR.
Because there is an HD25 without the LV on it, and the HD25 is dimmer.
Oh, there you
So
go.
the LV denotes that it is the brighter model. Now, Wirecutter did a whole shootout where they chose that BenQ HT 1075 that we always talk about. They chose that as the winner, but they chose the HD 25 LV as the runner up, but specifically saying it is brighter than the BenQ and therefore handy for places where you will have ambient light, and that it wasn't quite as black or quite as contrasty as the BenQ. So everything lines up. There's nothing that really seems hugely amiss here. However, it doesn't mean that this thing is like too bright to look at, because you can put it in eco mode to cut the light output by like 40 to 50%. You can make sure it's as far back as you can get it so that you're at the telephoto end of the lens, which cuts light out a little bit. Then you can back down the contrast and brightness settings inside the settings to decrease light output even more. So it's rare to have a projector that's actually genuinely too bright that you can never back it down enough. Yeah, so that's kind of the situation there.
Now, he's generally okay with his current JBL Venue speakers, which, by the way, if you look up JBL Venue, you get a wireless Bluetooth dock thing.
Oh, that's not that.
I know. They're older speakers.
Right.
They're all sold out everywhere. The price of the new ELAC speakers is tempting him. He hasn't heard them, but he has listened to the Andrew Jones Pioneer speakers in the store and wasn't really impressed. But that may have been a room. So are the ELAC speakers a substantial improvement over the Pioneers and or his current speakers? We've never heard them.
I really don't know.
We don't know. I haven't even heard your speakers. The Venue speakers, I haven't heard those.
Yeah.
That being said, if you heard the Pioneer ones and you didn't like them, why on God's green earth would you ask us to suggest to you more speakers that this man made? First of all, you need to go listen to speakers and come back at us with something that you did like. I really like this, but they cost $10,000 a pair. What can I get that's like that for $500? We're gonna laugh at you and then try to find something. But no, well, I mean, $10,000. Let's be reasonable here. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because, when I say that I am very impressed by those Pioneer speakers, it is interesting because what each person is listening for when they go to an audition, particularly at a store, can be very different based on your experience and preference and all those types of things. Because, I mean, I'm essentially listening for the speaker that nothing sticks out, right? Because that is telling me that it's essentially fairly neutral. If something kind of sticks out in any particular way, I'm like, well, that means it's basically nonlinear. That's why something is sticking out at me. So I'm almost looking for the most boring speaker because to me, that's like the most neutral linear one.
But you go in there and you get something and they're like, oh, they just got such really dynamic highs. I'm like, oh, as I like to call that, headache inducing after 2 hours of a movie, or God help us, any of the Hobbit movies. You're just going to be like, I can't take it anymore. Or you go in there and they're like, oh, it's got great bass. Oh, you mean the thing that my subwoofer is going to do for me? Yeah, I'm really worried about that right now. So
yeah, but I mean, again, absolutely nothing wrong with preferring what you prefer. So
absolutely.
I mean, going anecdotally by the few people we do know who have heard the ELAC speakers, and we've heard some dissenting opinions now too. Some people
we have.
Like, they're fine. Nobody has said they think they're outright bad sounding. But we've heard some people say like, they sound like $300 per pair of speakers, which is what they are, right? So I think they're probably fairly neutral. Everything about Andrew Jones designs seems that way. I think they probably have even dispersion out to the sides because that's the thing he really focuses on more than anything else. So I think those two things are probably givens. But yeah, if you weren't impressed by the Pioneers, it's probably a fairly similar sound, just slightly refined. Yeah.
So find speakers you do like and then buy that. If that's what you're looking for. But again, if you're kind of okay with like, what don't you like about your JBL speakers? Why don't you tell us that? And then maybe we can make some recommendations. Zach, after hearing us talk about the importance of setting the impedance of a receiver to the highest setting, he checked the settings on his Onkyo TX NR1030 and found that only choices were 4 ohms or 6 ohms. His EMP Tech speakers are rated at 6 ohms, but he previously had an Onkyo TX NR818 that fried the internal amps multiple times, smoking everything. God. Onkyo is the best. So no other receiver on this podcast has ever caught fire, but whenever one does, it's Onkyo. So I don't often burn up receivers, but when I do, it's an Onkyo.
Oh, by the way, I still have an 818 for sale. Anyone interested?
Anyone want that one?
God.
So,
why does all my
anyways, he
gear?
doesn't wanna
All
take
my
any
gear
chances.
works fine.
So the receiver should support 8 ohms, right? Yes. Is the auto setup to blame for the missing option? No. Is there some way to set it to 8 ohms? No. Should you even worry about it? No. There you go.
No, some AV receivers do not have 4, 6, and 8. Some have just 4 and 8. Some have 4 and 6. Some don't have anything at all. There is no impedance switch. So in the case of this particular,
don't have an impedance switch.
yeah.
Most.
So in the case of this particular Onco, the only options are 4 ohms or higher and 6 ohms or higher. So if you have 8 ohm speakers, those are higher than 6, so that's the setting. But regardless, you leave it at the highest impedance setting that is allowed so that you are not choking off current. Although if the thing's catching fire, that starts to make a case, doesn't it?
What speakers is it? He never told us what speakers
EMP
he has.
techs. EMP techs, he said.
Those don't burn stuff up.
I know they don't.
That's just Onkyo being stupid.
No, there was a problem with that unit. That's what that was.
That would you think? Yeah.
Which is why they replaced it.
Yeah, so anyways, he misses having Odyssey Multi-Q XT32. He's happy to report the Onkyo's ACU EQ has not been as bad as I thought. That's not a glowing endorsement. I don't know what it is.
It's not as
I
bad
literally
as I
thought this was going to be the worst thing ever. It is not that. Like, okay. Is that good? I'm not sure that's good. Anyways. Still, since it only uses one measurement position, he'd like to have something a bit better. If he wanted to create his own EQ curves using Roam EQ Wizard, would he have to get a mini DSP? How would it work? How would everything be connected so that he could use his own EQ curves?
So you would need some sort of you would need some sort of outboard box because you're not going to be able to take Room EQ Wizard and load its results directly into the Onkyo. You can't do that.
Does it have a manual EQ setting? Because he could theoretically put them in there manually.
Yeah, without it being tremendously precise, because it's not a parametric EQ in the manual setting version. It's just they have some preset center frequencies that you cannot change, and then you can boost or cut those center frequencies. You cannot alter how wide the Q of that frequency. You can't. It's not parametric, so you can't alter the Q, and you can't change what the center frequencies are. There's just the preset selections.
Sounds exactly as bad as I thought it was going to be. But go on.
So,
so you're going to need a DSP. Yes.
Yeah, I mean the mini DSP is certainly the most affordable way to do that. Well, maybe not, because you'd want like a 7-channel unit, right? An 8-channel unit for 7.1. So those are a little bit more expensive, but it's probably the easiest by far because you can do everything almost automatically, actually, if you're using a mini DSP and Room EQ Wizard. And yeah, as Tom mentioned, you do need a measurement microphone to make that work as well. Although you can just use an SPL meter because they have correction curves for SPL meters built into Room EQ Wizard.
That's true.
So you don't have to go nuts in order to make this work. But the big thing here is that the receiver model that he has does have pre-outs, so that's fine.
Yeah, but then he has to buy an amp.
But you have to buy an amp. That's exactly.
I mean, this is where you run into your problem here. Like, you could do this with your sub.
Oh yeah,
that's easy.
Yeah,
you get the smallest mini DSP.
That's right.
You get yourself set up with some sort of mic system, and you're fine. But as soon as you start talking about doing it to all of your speakers, yeah, dude, you might as well just buy a new receiver. At that point, it's going to be cheaper.
Yeah, because the external box that is holding the correction curves that you create in Room EQ Wizard has to sit in between the pre-outs of your receiver or pre-pro and the amplifiers. And there's no way to like loop it back in to use the internal amplifiers. So
I wish there was a way.
Yeah,
so you almost want to use like pre-outs and then back to your 7-channel inputs.
But that doesn't work.
I know it doesn't.
You'd have to select the 7-channel in as 7.1 analog in as your source, and then the source is its own output. That doesn't work. So yeah, you're essentially no longer using an AV receiver at that point. You're using it strictly as a preamp, and you'd have to buy external amplification. So if you only want to do it for your sub, like Tom said, then it totally makes sense. But for all your speakers, not so much.
Yeah. There is nothing that you can put between your your amplifier outputs of your receiver into the mini DSP or something like that, and then into your speakers from there. There's nothing that goes there. There's nothing.
Nah,
It
no.
has to go between your
That'd be
amps.
like a full amplified signal the whole way. No, definitely not.
Yeah. Steven, how do you get yeah, okay. Steven, how do you get rid of the soap opera effect on a Samsung TV? This is a short one. Do it quick.
Look for Auto Motion Plus. If there are only the options for on or off, or low, medium, high, and off, turn it off, because Auto Motion Plus is Samsung's name for de-judder, or the proper term is frame interpolation, where it's taking the original frames that existed and making up new ones and sticking them in between the frames that are really there, and that's where you get the soap opera effect from, that oddly, overly smooth look that looks like somebody shot it on a home handycam. Now, the newer Samsungs have an Auto Motion Plus that's there. That's always what you're looking for. But then they have a sub menu under Auto Motion Plus, and they have separated de-blurring, de-juddering, and sometimes they even have LED backlight scanning. The only one you really need to worry about is the de-juddering. You want the de-juddering off, or 0 if that's all that they give you. The de-blurring, actually, it seems like you can often use without it adding the soap opera effect. The LED backlight scanning is where it's basically flickering the LED backlight to try and insert black frames in between existing frames. Most people say it really doesn't enhance the image other than making it dimmer. So most people don't really like the LED backlight scanning, but definitely set the judder, the anti-judder thing, to the lowest or off. That's the one you really want to go for.
Okay. Since we started late, we're going to answer one more. Jonathan has managed to get his AVR X22 2200W to go into protection mode.
Yeah.
Yay!
It didn't catch on fire.
That's right, because it's not Onkyo.
Smoke.
If it was an Onkyo, that thing would have burnt the house down. It only happens when it uses a Dolby Surround Up mixer or 5-channel stereo mode to expand 2-channel music to use all 5 speakers, and then only when he turns up the volume very high. It has never gone into projection mode using 2 channels only, no matter how loud. It has never gone into projection mode with surround sound content. Forum people think his ELAC speakers must be inefficient and drawing too much power for the X2200. What can we suggest? Stop talking to forum people. That's what I suggest.
Remember last week.
Come from it.
Remember last week, Jonathan was asking, after he did Odyssey, it set all the trim levels to negative numbers. It cut the output to all of the speakers. So it's not that the speakers are too inefficient to get loud enough.
Yeah.
It in fact had to turn itself down.
Yeah. Speaker wire, dude. Speaker wire.
He's like, it can't be because it doesn't happen with the other ones.
Wire.
It's heating up.
It's as you're going, it's heating up. And as it heats up, the wires are starting to bend a little bit. It's a speaker wire. Or it's something laying across a terminal. And it's one of your surround speakers, more than likely. Though it may be one of your mains too. Double check them. Triple check them. Quadruple check them. Dust. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The whole 9 yards. Because I think that's what's happened to mine back there, is that as they heat up, the every once in a while the speaker the banana plugs are so close together that one will, if there's something like a hair laying across it or something, and it just that's all it takes, shuts it down.
Yep. Yeah.
Every time, all I do is to go back there and separate all the banana plugs away from each other and like blow it off, and then it works for like months, and I don't have to do it again.
I mean, I can pretty much guarantee, with how small his room is, with how close he's sitting to the speakers,
That's not how
the X2200 has enough power to drive those ELAC speakers. That is not the question here. You could try manually turning the trim levels up a little bit, because all that is a voltage gain. So you've increased the voltage output, which should reduce how much amperage has to go to those speakers. It's just a straight up gain adjustment there. But I think Tom is absolutely right. Something is setting it into protection mode, and it's not that the speakers are drawing too much power. It can't be with how close you're sitting to them.
Forum people. There's some good people on the forums. Where did they all go? That's my question.
They all got chased away. Like I don't post on the forums anymore.
I don't either. I can't go.
I have a whole podcast to talk about it, but I don't go there because it's so demoralizing to post anything. You can post anything and someone will scream at you.
Yeah.
virtually speaking over a keyboard. But
All
yeah,
caps.
yeah, yeah. There's so many contrarians,
That is true.
right?
All right, Gary, Infinite Gary. He's got a bunch of questions, so we're going to power through them real quick. He
Okay.
bought and ultimately returned an iPad Pro. He found the image soft and too low in contrast for his liking. He also had issues with apps like YouTube, limiting the resolution of the video streamed at 720p when a 1080p version was available for the desktop version. His 7.9-inch iPad looks much sharper to him, and while Apple calls the iPad Pro's display a Retina display, they don't look at all alike. So what's going on here? Why does the iPad Pro look so bad? Well, you don't have it anymore, so it's not yours. But with a 4K resolution iPad Pro, which will probably come sooner than later, look a lot better. Why in God's green earth would you need a 4K iPad? Anyways, I'm not saying that he's not right, that it's not coming, that they're not going to do that, or that they don't basically already have it. I mean, they have 1080p displays on phones. You're like, really? It's a setting? Is there a setting? A brightness setting? There usually is. Some of these things, like some of them have they auto adjust the brightness, and you can turn that on and turn that off, and that can make a big difference. I've played with it both ways, and I don't know, because
I mean, it is a problem of attribution, because I mean the iPad Pro has a really weird resolution. I can't remember it offhand, but I mean it doesn't like evenly fit into anything. It's a 4:3 aspect ratio. It's like 2732 by 2048 or something like that. It's a very strange resolution. So which basically means everything is being scaled, right? Like nothing is natively being sent in that resolution. So possibly part of it is being scaled, but there's so many variables when it comes to image quality. Like I don't know where they're sourcing these LCD panels from. I don't know how good the native contrast of that panel is, because native contrast matters more than just the sheer resolution, right? So like trying to just compare it to the 7.9-inch iPad and saying, oh, the 7.9-inch looks better. It's like, it's not just a matter of pixel density or resolution. It's, the entire LCD screen.
Mm-hmm.
And just in general, when you go from a larger screen to a smaller screen, the smaller screen does look sharper. I mean, that just tends to be the case, right? So, you could watch an old standard def 13-inch and it looked kind of sharp, but then you blow that same image up to 65 inches and it's blurry as all get out.
Right.
So,
so on the topic of listening volume, Gary tends to set his volume by turning up the movie he's watching until it sounds just a little bit too loud, and then backing it off a few dB. He ends up with a different volume dial positions for different movies this way, and often it's down around negative 30 dB. If reference volume is supposed to be where it is supposed to be, where he's supposed to end up is reference. Why is this inconsistency from movie to movie, and what is he missing by not having his volume dial at 0? Well, what you are missing is hearing loss, because if 30 dB is just about negative 30 dB is just about too loud, that would be, you would have hearing loss if by the end of a movie you would be missing that. You're completely overthinking this, Gary. Really, you're doing the right thing. You get it to where you want the volume to be, and then you're fine with it. And honestly, Blu-rays, I'm up at -5. On let me see, Netflix, I'm usually -25. On Amazon, I'm closer to negative. Is that the way it works? I think it's maybe Netflix is -30 to -25, and Amazon is right around -20 to -15. DVDs are closer to -15 to -10 is where I end up, usually right around there. And that's at where I think it needs to be, where it's loud, where I'm enjoying it. I'm not having to strain to hear anything. And if my kids come in the room, I have to say what to hear what they're saying, because it's loud enough. Reference volume is not supposed to be where it's at. Where it's at is where it's comfortable for you, and depending on how much boost is going on with the actual content, that's going to change.
Yeah, I mean, let's be clear. Reference volume is loud. Like it's IMAX.
Really loud.
Go to IMAX. Like most movie theaters, when you go out to the movie theater, they're not at reference volume. right? If it was THX certified, those were like the only theaters that ever played stuff at reference volume other than IMAX. It was like IMAX and THX certified, and there's hardly any THX certified theaters anymore. And all the other ones are below reference volume, so you can't even say the movie theater is playing it there.
Yeah.
So we all know how bloody loud IMAX theaters are. That's reference volume. I don't know anybody who listens that loud at home. I don't. I turn it down.
I remember from the first THX movie theaters I went to, they had that train promo thing.
Yeah.
I swear, my ears were ringing after that.
Yeah.
That I saw Forrest Gump. I don't know if it was a THX certified theater, but it had that THX thing. And then I was watching. I think it was the movie I was seeing was Forrest Gump. And then afterwards, I was like, oh, I'm dizzy. It was so loud. I was dizzy afterwards.
Yeah.
So don't worry that you're not making yourself nauseated.
Yeah.
By the how much sound you have, you're doing just fine. Don't overthink it, dude.
Yeah, no, reference is a reference. It's something that can be referenced to so that we have some sort of standard to work against. And I have noticed the same thing. Across Blu-rays, there are sometimes varying levels, which, I mean, that's a stylistic choice, right? Like if you're watching Transformers, everything is pumped up to 105 dB, right?
Yeah.
Now, it was mixed at reference volume, but they decided that everything's going to be super loud in this movie, so it's headache inducing. Whereas you watch some other movie, that's just talking heads, and it's not nearly that loud over the course of the thing, even though that was also mixed to reference volume. So you might have the drama that's nothing but two people talking to each other turned up higher on your volume dial and Transformers turned down. Of course you will. They might have both been mixed at reference, but that doesn't mean that the average SPL over the course of the whole movie is going to be the same from movie to movie. So that explains that part.
All right, he's a little bit confused by the whole 4 ohm switch on AV receivers. Most separate amplifiers are rated on their spec sheet for both 4 ohms and 8 ohms. And you don't have to flick any sort of switch. Many AV receivers also show some sort of rating into 4 ohms on their spec sheet. Is that with this 4 ohm switch activated? No. That's them pumping as much power as they can into 4 ohms or into 8 ohms with however many speakers they have. That's what the rating comes from. The switch is only on a select number of receivers and not a whole lot of them. And then it cuts off the amount of available power when you're in 4 ohm mode to stop the speaker from demanding more power than the receiver should be giving.
It's actually also there because of external third parties who are demanding that receivers remain below a certain power draw.
Right.
So it's their way of meeting those standards because they're saying, oh, hey, look, we put in this mode. That's what people are supposed to use. If they're using lower impedance speakers, they're supposed to turn this switch on, and that makes sure it never draws more than this amount of power. But if they had their druthers, they wouldn't have that switch because all it does is choke their amplifier and destroy the performance of the
And that's
amplifier.
why normal amplifiers don't have them, because normal amplifiers, first of all, don't need them because they're built specifically to power these types of speakers, and they don't want them.
They're not trying to get an Energy Star rating or something like that. Right? So like,
the Energy Star rating is 2 middle fingers. That's what their Energy Star rating is.
They're like vampire power. Hell, it's just full on sucking the entire time when you plug us in. Class A. So I mean, like the new Denon and Amaranthus, right? They go beyond even having the thing. They have the eco mode, right? So even if you leave it in 8 ohms, you can put it in eco mode and choke off all the power, and that's how they get their Energy Star rating.
Right.
So all of those things are there for that purpose. So that's why you don't see it on a smaller brand external amplifier. They're rated into the 8 ohm setting.
All right. Lastly, a hypothetical: if we, meaning Rob and I, each had 50 grand to spend on 5 speakers, and all of that money is just for the speakers, and we had a dedicated but medium-sized room, which speakers would we buy? Basically, what are our dream speakers, but with a modicum of reality to it? 50 grand is not a modicum of reality. Let's start with that.
Well, he's talking about the room. The room is the modicum, because I mean, we're not just saying truly unlimited budget. You can build whatever room you want. It's like, this has to fit into a normal house.
Honestly, if I'm in a medium-sized theater, I would be getting some sort of high-end bookshelf, like really super duper high-end bookshelf. Because if I'm spending 50 grand on them, that's on 5 speakers. That's what I would be doing. But 50 grand is a lot of money. That's 10 grand a speaker.
Uh-huh.
That's a lot of money to be spending on speakers. And I would have identical speakers all the way around, more than likely.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I would do.
So no specifics from you?
No, I didn't look up. I got home at 8:30.
Well, I don't know. Maybe that's something in
that's
mind.
when I got the topic list was at 8:30, and we started this podcast. We started trying to do this podcast at 9 o'clock.
You were just, I just won the Powerball, and I'm gonna go buy some speakers today. May have it in the back of your mind.
Though, I mean, I would probably, look into the companies that I trust that make really big speakers. Like Kef, I know has got their blades. I might look at those. I'm not a particular fan of B&W. So I probably wouldn't look at them. Most of the really high-end speaker manufacturers, I think, are mostly full of BS, and I wouldn't want to give them money. So I have a hard time. I would look at the RBHs, but I think RBHs are like, what, 25 grand a pair or something like that, or for the rock speakers, or even 10 grand a pair. It doesn't even get close to this. So I would have money left over if I went that way. I really don't think in a medium-sized room you need, if you've got speakers that are as expensive as these, you need full floor standing speakers. I think you need bookshelf speakers most of the time. And if I'm spending this much room, I'm gonna have 4 subs and everything else. I'm not gonna need all the low end. And frankly, if I spend 10 grand on a per speaker, I'm gonna end up with really nice with enough bass coming out of them that I can cross them over really easily into a subwoofer. So,
all right. 50 grand for 5 speakers. I'm buying 5 JBL Pro M2s. There.
Those
done. $10,000 a piece.
What are those?
Those are the ones where they've basically taken all the Harman research and built a speaker.
I didn't know they did that.
Yeah, that is their new high water mark. This is everything we know how to do as far as speaker design goes.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I would do. I would go to a company like CAF, which make the blade speakers, with this, basically the same thing. It's a concept speaker. I might just go to RBH and say, hey, I'm going to give you $10,000 a speaker. I need 5 of them, and I don't want them to be too big, and I don't want them to be made out of rock because that's stupid.
Yeah.
Make me the best anything you can make.
I haven't even heard the M2s, but you know what? When it is literally everything that Harman has done as far as researching speakers, then like this is this is the culmination. Oh yeah, I mean, I'd audition them, but that's where I'd be heading. That's where I'd be going with it in my mind. That as long as they please me, that's what I'd be buying. So JBL Pro M2s.
See, I mean, because if I'm going to spend 10 grand a speaker, I'm probably looking at electrostatic speakers, but I don't want those in a dedicated home theater.
I know.
I just don't.
It's just you.
It's just me. It's just me in there. And then I have to like put my head in the vise in order for it to work. Like you'd have to have like a special fitted collar that you slip your head into that's attached to your seat. That's the only place that you can be. And then it sounds amazing. But even then, you only need 2 speakers to get really good sound out of electrostatic speakers. All right, how many more questions do we have left? We have 2, don't we?
Is that it?
That's what I have.
Might be.
Carl and Brian is all that's left here. I'm looking at this. I don't want to answer these questions today. All right. Carl and Brian, we'll catch you next week. I think I got a question from, I don't know, maybe not. I thought I got another one, but maybe not. Anyways, so Carl and Brian, we'll see you guys next week. If you want to get your question answered on the podcast, all you need to do is ask. You can email us at tom@avrant.com, rob@avrant.com. Go to the website, www.avrant.com, and leave a comment there. You can also go and click on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link where you leave a PayPal donation like Ariel and Ariel. How are we pronouncing that name?
I don't. Whenever I've seen it, anyone with that name spelled that way, they've always said Ariel.
Ariel. Okay. Ariel and Jonathan did. Which is always very, very appreciated. Helps support the podcast. We are going to be working one of these days on these videos to get the Patreon link up, and we'll be giving that out when that happens. I want to thank Ken as well for the PreSonus Audio Box 44 VSL, which is in my hand and not in my system because my computer sucks. Ilango for the letter, and Scott for getting us probably some of the best promotion we've had to date. Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, I will just mention I've looked through this entire manual for the SR5009 from Rant. I can't find any reference to setting it to a different remote control code thing. Doesn't mean I didn't miss it somehow, but I'm not seeing it readily available.
There you go. Let me see. If you want to get in touch with us via Twitter, oh, I'm sorry. Go to Facebook, www.facebook.com/AVRant podcast. That's all one word. And Twitter is at First Reflect for Rob, at AVRant_Tom for me, and at Austin Pond, the E, Austin Pond, for our producer Austin, who has a podcast called We Watch Movies.
Yes.
It is solely about the care and maintenance of those little trees. What are they called? The ones that you have to cut them.
Bonsai trees?
Bonsai. That's it. Bonsai trees. Yeah. Weird. I don't know why they call it that. Yes. All right. I think that'll be it. If you did not hear your name in relation to a question, you did not send your question on Monday, send it earlier than that, please feel free to send it back to us again. We'll be happy to.
Yes, we do not skip questions on this podcast.
We do not.
It's not evident. We do not edit or say we're not going to answer that. So anything you want to ask, it does not matter if it has been asked before. We are totally willing to answer it again, anything like that. So yeah, if you didn't hear your question already or your name mentioned, then send it again because it just meant it got lost in the shuffle, which is possible.
Yeah, it's just possible. I got the new Xbox One update and I hate it. Okay,
yeah, so, I know. It's different, so yes.
It's terrible. I did like the old one.
Did you? I never liked it. I don't like the new one. I didn't like the old one.
I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'm sure I'll get used to it, but I'm not a fan. We didn't mention it in the podcast, and this is not that kind of podcast, but our thoughts are, of course, on all the people in Paris.
Yeah, that's I mean, hearing about any of this stuff whenever it happens, wherever it happens, just dredges up horrible feelings and horrible reminders. And yeah, our hearts are very much with the people in France. And let's stop this nuttiness.
Can we not do that anymore?
Yeah.
Let's just talk more about subwoofers. That's a better plan.
If we want to argue on the forums about why your receiver is going to protection mode, I'm okay with that level of disagreement. That's okay.
You can all caps the hell out of me.
Let's stop it there, though.
Let's just leave it right there at the all caps.
That's as far as we need to go.
That's good. We're good. Right there. For AV Rant, I'm Tom Antry.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.
And we will have after party in a second, guys.